Hello, wonderful IELTS Daily subscribers, friends and students. I'm Chris from IELTS Daily and I'm back with another fantastic mock exam video. Do we have any Indians in the room? Because we have Rahul, our next student from India. You will see that Rahul has some experience with the IELTS test. I'm going to go through and listen to what he does well and maybe some of the areas that he makes mistakes in. And you can check whether you make the same mistakes. As always, if you like this video, if you think it's useful, please give it a thumbs up. Are you ready? Because I am definitely ready. Let's go. Do you think that the IELTS speaking test is difficult? Well, I agree with you. The great news is that we've made some fantastic mock exam videos with a real practice exam, with real students and a real practice examiner. During these videos, I'm going to be looking at what the students do well, how they can improve, and also how you guys can use some of their tips, techniques and ideas in your speaking test. Okie dokie, so I'm just putting my headphones in, getting myself ready so that I can watch Rahul. Now, I should mention that Rahul has his own little IELTS channel, and I will post a link to Rahul's IELTS channel. It's specifically for people who are looking to reach kind of the band 7 level, so if you do want to have some other resources that you might want to dip into, check out his channel. In this video, we've got the examiner May and Rahul. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to this practice exam conducted by IELTS Daily. My name is May and I'm your practice IELTS speaking examiner. At the beginning of the IELTS test, you need to provide some identification. But as this is a practice test, there's no need for that today. Are you ready to begin?
Yes, I am.
Let's talk about where you live. Do you live in a rural or urban area?
I would definitely call it an urban area, I would say, because it's not very far away from the city, and it's the cherry on the cake is that it's near the mountains as well. So it's definitely a mix of urban and rural.
Okie dokie. So great start for Rahul. I'm sure that you all enjoyed his fluency. He's pretty clear. He's got good pronunciation. Now, he does have a bit of an Indian accent. However, that's not a bad thing. We live in a multicultural society. Accents are not necessarily downgraded or penalized in the test. Pronunciation features are. So, yes, Rahul has an accent, but we need to be listening for pronunciation features rather than accent. The one thing that I would like to focus on is this idea of idiomatic language. And I could see that Rahul tried really hard to include an idiom in his speech, and he said, the cherry on the cake is that. I would be questioning here about the use of the cherry on the cake. We're talking about where he lives, and he said that it's close to the mountains, and that's the cherry on the cake. When we use the idiom, the cherry on the cake was, or the cherry, I think we can say the cherry on the icing maybe. This would be used when you're making a list of positive things, and then you're kind of saying the best thing. He only gave one good example or one example of something positive, and then said the cherry on the cake. So as a native speaker, I just query the use of that idiomatic language. It's almost like he's memorized it and tried to put it into the test. And using memorized language would be something that I would discourage. But well done to Rahul anyway.
Do you enjoy living there?
I love living there, I would say. I love because it's a place I always wanted to stay, I would say.
In this question, Rahul says, I love living there. And the examiner asked, do you like living there? And this would be an example of paraphrasing. So you are changing the question in the answer that you give, which is a great thing to be doing. You shouldn't really be like a parrot and repeating everything. I feel like at this point, he might have missed kind of the ability, the option to extend a little bit more. But so far, it's not too problematic. He's explaining the reasons. I feel like he just could have a little bit more extension.
What things can you do in your local area?
There are a lot of things, but the thing which is dominating is the different markets which you can explore, particularly the food markets. Anybody who is enthusiastic about eating different types of foods, that's the place to go.
I'd like to move on to the topic of driving. Do you drive?
Yes, I drive and I love to drive.
Are the roads dangerous or safe in your country?
I think it totally depends upon one's perspective and one's experiences, because if you drive safe, I think you will be safe.
So here, this is a perfect example. You'll see two sentences on the screen now, which is if you drive safe and if you drive safely. I would say that the majority of native speakers would probably say if you drive safe. Grammatically, you should use an adverb. So if you drive safely is the more grammatically correct form. But what we notice in language is that unless you are rigid, with your grammar, if you're a grammarian, you're probably not going to be worried too much. An examiner is going to be listening for those type of slips, and you'll see that in the band descriptors, it allows you at a band 9, full marks, you can make some grammatical slips, kind of these acceptable grammatical slips, and I think this would probably be one of them.
Do you enjoy traveling by car?
Not by car, but I definitely love traveling by road, and that includes public transport, because during that time I don't have to drive myself. I can just sit passively and enjoy the view.
All right, I'm just going to jump in here. At the beginning of this video, I talked about the fact that Rahul has an Indian accent, which is great. The problem is that there's a pronunciation feature that you just heard, which signifies and shows that he's not a native speaker, in the sense that he doesn't focus on the official pronunciation of words. So he says words like dat. If you go back and listen, he uses it twice. Dat and this. And the correct pronunciation would be that and this. Try to focus on the tongue. And I talk about it all the time. Don't be lazy. If you find words which have the sound in them, try to keep your tongue between your teeth. So this and that. Look at my tongue. This and that. Not this and that. And lots of people commented on the previous videos that we've made about how it's too strict, etc. But what you will realize is that if you're a native speaker and you come and take this test, it doesn't mean that you're going to be guaranteed to have a band 9, the full marks. You will find that some native speakers also pronounce things lazily. They don't pronounce the th sound. They may even say, I think. I think that's a good idea. And you hear that a lot in the UK. And it's lazy, a lazy way to pronounce the th sound. So rather than I think, they will say, I think. I thought that was a good idea. And it's this sound, F sound. And you would be marked down on that in the test because it's not standardized. It's not the official way to pronounce words. So this is not selecting people who are non-native speakers and singling them out. It is possible for native speakers to not reach that band 9 as well.
Now let's talk about the topic of seasons. Does your country have seasons?
I think it's having 3 seasons, to be very precise, but I'll talk about this place where I am living right now, because I call this my country now, because it has given me a lot of things. I love the seasons over here.
Grammar. All right, so in this question, May, the examiner says, does your country have seasons? Does your country have seasons? Does. It's a simple form. The way that Rahul answered it was in the continuous form. He said, it's having 3 seasons, and that would not be something that a native speaker would answer with. So because the question came in the simple form, does your country have 3 seasons? Yes, it does. Yeah, it has 3 seasons, not it is having 3 seasons. And I think Rahul makes this mistake a couple of times through the test, and therefore he's probably precluded, he won't reach the band 9 for grammar because of this little slip with the tense.
What is your favorite season?
There's no particular. Everything is my favorite. I am very, very optimistic about life, I would say. When it's winter, I love wearing jackets, and I don't miss a chance to go to the pool when it's summer. So everything is my favorite, I would say.
I talk a lot about complexity of grammar in my feedback videos. In this case, he said, I don't miss the chance to go to the pool when it's summer. So a when sentence is a good way to extend and expand your grammatical range, different features. Good job.
Would you like to live in a country which has different seasons?
Well, definitely. I am already, I would say, living in a country which is having different seasons. But if I get a chance to move to another country which is also having different seasons, I won't back off. I will definitely go over there.
Really nice answer. I'm querying the use of his language. I won't back off. I wouldn't say no is probably a more natural way to say it. If I ask somebody to back off, it means actually to move away. So if somebody's too close to me, I can say, just back off a little bit. I'm not entirely sure that back off would be the correct phrasal verb here. And because of these little errors that are sneaking in, he might struggle to score the full band 9 for lexical resource because it's not effortless and it's not completely natural.
In the next part of the test, I'm going to give you a topic and I would like you to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. You will have 1 minute to think about what you want to say, and I will give you a pencil and some paper to make notes if you want. Is that clear?
Yes, it is.
Here is your paper and pencil. And you have 1 minute to prepare. Thank you. Now I would like you to talk about a time you felt proud of a family member or friend. Remember, you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Since my childhood, I've been very lucky to get in touch with people who have been very inspiring, very motivating. And when I was in my school days, when I was studying, I still remember I read a quote over there which said, I would say that whatever you surround yourself with, whatever you feed your mind with, you become that. That thing, I was so caught up with that thing that I had made a decision very earlier in my life that I would always be in touch with people who are positive. So let me talk about somebody who inspired me a lot.
I'm just going to jump in here. You will notice that Rahul has adopted and implemented a strategy which is go off topic to begin with and set the scene. That's okay as long as he gets back to the answer. So the first 30 seconds of his answer actually didn't contain anything which related to the question. I personally wouldn't choose to adopt this approach, but it's completely okay with you if you want to go down that route, because there's no right or there's no wrong answer. You're trying to demonstrate your ability to speak fluently, and so what he's tried to do is fill his time with some background to the topic, and I see that quite often with students.
And she is the reason I'm sitting in front of you right now, giving this exam to score well so that I can move to an English-speaking country. And the name of the person is Priya. She's my cousin sister. And her story is so inspiring. When she was 18 years old, there was no financial support that she was getting from her parents or family members or anybody for that instance. But she didn't give up. She opened her own clinic, taking a place on rent, and she had no means, I would say, to pay the rent. But she had a belief that she can do it. She did it. And now, 2 years ago, she came to Melbourne, Australia.
Sorry to interrupt you, Rahul. You're doing really well. I want to talk about something which I see all the time. And this is really common. If we have any Indian students in the room, we see the term giving the exam. I'm going to give the IELTS exam. Now, I don't know the answer to this question. I've been teaching IELTS for a long time, and I don't know whether an IELTS examiner would mark somebody down for this, because it seems that the word give an exam is completely normal on the Indian subcontinent. We hear people from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, from India using this type of language. In reality, the majority of people who speak English as a native language, who only speak English, they would probably say, I'm taking the exam. So rather than giving the exam, it's the opposite, it's taking the exam. So for example, I could say, I'm taking the IELTS next week, whereas somebody from India would say, I'm giving the IELTS next week. Now, I think this is going to be one example where, because of the widespread use, and the examiners hear this all the time, I sense they will probably accept this as something which is not a deduction, which is great because I think language should be fluid and it should be changing. But I just wanted to highlight this, that for many people who come from India, from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka, you often say, I'm giving the exam. If you are one of those people, put your ideas in the comments, because we love to see. And if that's a surprise for you, that we actually say I'm taking the exam and you say I'm giving the exam, then it's an interesting piece of learning today.
And you know what happened then? The universe favored her in such manners, in such a way, that today she's working in aged care. And you know, when the coronavirus pandemic started, there was nobody helping anybody but these aged care workers. They were helping everyone. They were taking care of the elder family members, I would say. But I think that whatever she is having right now, she deserves it. You know why? Because she's really worked very hard for it. And I think you can see it in my eyes that I'm not lying. And I'm very proud of her. And the reason I am sitting over here, I would say, I called her 2 days ago and I told her that I'm going to give this examination. And she...
One thing that I loved about Rahul's speech here is that he uses this kind of emotive tone in his language. There's a lot of rise and a lot of fall in the way that he describes things. He uses his hands and gesticulation. Now, lots of people will say, don't use your hands. It's absolutely normal to use your hands in the IELTS speaking test. You can. But the thing that struck me and that I was impressed by is that he has this kind of tone in his language where he stresses parts of the words and parts of the sentence when he wants to kind of convey his message, which I think is a really good way. And it shows the examiner this ability to use pronunciation features flexibly, whereas somebody at a lower level, you would find they would stay at a single tone throughout and there wouldn't be this emotion coming through in their language. So well done to Rahul for that.
She just sent me very tight hugs through the phone. I know it's virtual, it's not that real feeling, but definitely it is something which...
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to stay on the topic of achievements. What qualities do you think many successful people have?
All of them are optimistic about everything.
Can you tell me more?
Yes, if I elaborate my answer, they are very optimistic because I once met somebody in a train I was traveling in, and I saw him smiling when he was looking out of the window. I asked him, "What makes you so happy, gentleman?" And he said that I have 2 cars at home, I have 2 villas, I have 2 mansions, but what makes me happy is traveling with people. So what they are is, I mean, he told me that no matter how successful you get, you should always stay connected to your roots.
Is it possible to be successful without hard work?
First of all, I would like to say something about success. Being successful is totally dependent upon one's view of being successful, you know. If somebody has bought a bike, after riding a bicycle for a long, I think he's successful. But if somebody is not able to buy a Range Rover and he bought a Honda City, then he would not consider him successful. But that car is a dream for the person who is having a bike. So I think it's all about perspective.
Is it important for parents to be proud of their children?
Definitely. I mean, if your parents are not supportive for you, because as I told you earlier in this speaking test as well, that whatever we see around us and whatever we surround ourselves with, we become. And if we are getting support from our parents, we are getting love from our parents, we would become good citizens of the country. And I think everybody and every country needs this.
Does competition lead to better results?
In some things it does, but if you talk about competitive examinations, I would say that's something which is only deteriorating the confidence of a lot of students nowadays, because they compare themselves with somebody who has been practicing the skill for years now, and they just joined that thing and they compare it, which I think it's not good.
Thank you. This is the end of this practice IELTS speaking test.
Many congratulations to Rahul for reaching the end of this practice test. I think we can all learn lots from Rahul's speech today. He's very confident. He gave explanations on his answers. There were just the minor slips in terms of grammar, some vocabulary. So let's give him a score. Fluency and coherence. I don't think there's much that I could mark him down on. He gave lots of great reasons. I think he deserves a 9 for his fluency and coherence. It's very, very, very well answered questions. Grammatical range and accuracy and lexical resource. I think both of these would probably be marked down to a band 8. One of them, could be either of them, maybe marked up to a 9. I sense that it's probably lexical resource that might reach a 9. He used a variety of different idiomatic phrases with mostly natural use. But the grammatical slips that he made with the tenses, etc., might cause him to be marked down to a band 8. Pronunciation, despite his Indian accent, he had great pronunciation features, lots of good stress. Just at the end, I noticed that he said deterioration. There was a little bit of a slip on the pronunciation there, but otherwise not too problematic. He probably would score a 9 here, really clear and understandable. So overall, a strict examiner would score Rahul 8, and a more lenient examiner would score a band 8.5. I don't think on this occasion he might reach the band 9, but I think an 8.5 would be a great result for him. So well done to Rahul. Don't forget that you can check out the link to his channel. Go and have a look and see whether you like his videos. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be back with many, many, many more mock exam videos. If you do like them, give us a like, come back, subscribe, and we'll see you very, very soon. I'm Chris from IELTS Daily. Take care of yourselves and keep working very hard.